This motion reads that this council, 1, commemorates the 80th anniversaries of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on the 6th and 9th of August 1945, which caused immense devastation and long-lasting human suffering. 2, honours the memory and testimony of atomic bomb survivors, Hiroshima, and nuclear test survivors, including First Nations communities in South Australia impacted by British nuclear weapons testing and Emu Field. 3, recognises the ongoing health, cultural and environmental impacts of nuclear weapons use and testing. Affirms South Australia's support for a world free of nuclear weapons and recognises the 2017 UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, TPNW, as a vital international instrument to help achieve that goal. 5, acknowledges the growing support from cities, towns and councils across Australia for the international campaign to abolish weapons, ICAN, Cities Appeal, and encourages further action at all levels of government to promote disarmament and peace. And 6, calls on the South Australian Government to ensure the state plays its part in advancing nuclear disarmament, educating future generations and supporting communities affected by nuclear testing. Mr President, I gave notice of this prior to the winter break, and so I thank members of this council for being willing to progress this motion all the way through today. And I did so it could be prepared in a timely way for the anniversary of this date, incredibly important date to not forget. On August the 6th, 1945, at 8:15 a.m, the United States dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. It took roughly 45 seconds for the bomb, named Little Boy, to reach the ground, where it unleashed unprecedented devastation. 3 days later, on August 9, another atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. It's one thing to quote the numbers. An estimated 110,000 were killed instantly. Countless more succumbed to their injuries, and generations had their lives changed forever. But beyond those numbers are people, each of them with their own stories, their lives, their families, their dreams. They were children, parents and grandparents on their way to school, to work, to the markets, to the park. They were innocent people preparing to go about their day. Their shadows are now etched in stone. One of those people was Susumu Yamaguchi. Born in Nagasaki, Yamaguchi was the only person recognised by the Japanese government as a double hibakusha, a double atomic bomb survivor. On August 6, Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on business when he was caught in the atomic bomb's havoc. His eardrums were ruptured, he was temporarily blinded and left with serious burns over the left side of his body. Having survived, he returned home to Nagasaki. Mr. Yamaguchi, on the morning of August 9th, then described what he experienced in Hiroshima when the second atomic bomb exploded in Nagasaki. Mr. Yamaguchi survived again. He did go on to live a long life and died on January 2010 at the age of 93, and he became a strong proponent of nuclear disarmament. He once said, "The reason that I hate the atomic bomb is because what it does to the dignity of human beings." His story is important to remember. The human toll, both physical and psychological, of nuclear weapons use can never be healed. It is the aspect often forgotten when nations threaten to or do use nuclear weapons. Like in any war or conflict, countless lives are changed forever. Here in South Australia, British atomic weapons testing was carried out at Emu and Maralinga. 2 tests out in Emu Field in October of 1953. 12 major trials were conducted across 3 sites at Maralinga, the first of which occurred on September 27, 1956. Some tests resulted in mushroom clouds reaching a height of 47,000 feet and radioactive fallout being detected as far away as Townsville. An undeniable part of the dark history of atomic weapons testing around the world, it is the harm caused to First Nations communities that is profound. In the United States, the first tests of an atomic bomb took place on First Nations land in New Mexico. Here in South Australia, of course, at Maralinga and Emu Field, the Australian government showed a reprehensible lack of concern for the Aboriginal community, the Anangu living on country. Extremely limited resources were allocated to finding and warning those people, with Chief Scientist of the Commonwealth Department of Supply, and Alan Butte, saying those concerned with finding communities living on country were, quote, placing the affairs of a handful of natives above those of the British Commonwealth of Nations, end quote. Despicable. The scars of those tests still remain. One location, called Cooley, is still off limits today because it is seen as impossible to clean up. Writing for the ABC in 2020, Mike Ladd described what it is like at the site of these tests, stating, "It's not until you stand at ground zero that you fully realise the hideous power of these bombs. Even more, after more than 60 years, the vegetation is cleared in a perfect circle with a 1 kilometre radius. The saying goes, quote, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, end quote." Mr. President, it is here today vital that we remember the past, not just on the anniversary, but the anniversary as a timely moment to reflect, to remember the horrible impact of the use of nuclear weapons, not just the immediate horror and devastation, but also the lasting health impacts and generational trauma that is inflicted. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN, is a coalition of NGOs across more than 100 countries. It is dedicated to promoting adherence to and implementation of the United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. ICAN works tirelessly to promote awareness of the impacts of nuclear weapons use and advocates for nuclear disarmament. August 2 to 9 was a week of action for the abolition, coinciding with that 80th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. While the week of action again acknowledged the past, it also looked to the future, to the world we want to see. Australia, sadly, is yet to join the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. To quote from the ICAN website, it is in the hands of everyday people to put the nuclear weapon ban treaty in front of our decision makers and office holders to demand they work for Australia's ratification. Mr. President, all I can say to that is hear, hear. I want to thank ICAN, their member organisations and supporters for all their work. I want to acknowledge the incredible individuals behind the campaign for nuclear disarmament, particularly those who are known to some of us here, such as Karina Lester. Karina's advocacy and passion has been invaluable to the global push towards nuclear disarmament. Her father, Yami Lester, was blinded by the nuclear fallout as a child from those tests at Maralinga. He spent his life raising awareness of the dangers of nuclear weapons, and Karina continues his legacy, as did her sister before she passed, and they share Yami's story around the Asia-Pacific, around the world, and including in Hiroshima. It is time Australia joined 94 other signatories to this treaty, including our close international friends such as New Zealand. If we want to see a world free of nuclear weapons and safe from their use, then we need to be prepared to stand up and lead with those values. We must learn from the past and ensure future generations live without fear of nuclear weapons, and that no one ever again endures the pain and suffering of their use. With that, I commend the motion.